Hey, what's up, everybody? I didn't see Raw last night that much. I'm probably gonna have to download it later and watch it, but I did watch some of it through highlights and everything, and read what was going on because I was able to read what was gonna happen anyway, hours before even the 6 o'clock HD showing or high definition showing of Raw was gonna come on because it was filmed in the United Kingdom. And one of the things people are talking about from last night is R-Truth turning heel. Now, I admit, this is probably, hopefully this is a good thing for WWE, because in a sense, when you think about it, it's kind of like an exchange deal. If you're turning one person heel, you got to turn one person face. So whoever they turn face is going to equal out R-Truth being the heel. And it's kind of ironic that he turns heel a week before the draft. So, which I'm surprised is taking place next week. So, but then again, maybe it's not much of a surprise, because when you think about it, one of the things that's quoted in the WWE, in the new SmackDown vs. Raw video game, events like Extreme Rules and, before that Backlash, in which Extreme Rules took the place of, they're usually the start of the new season for WWE. It's like, okay, WrestleMania was the season finale, and now we're like in the kind of like in the exhibition parts, if you will, of it, building up to the new season. And now here's the new season with Extreme Rules and Backlash. And it's ironic that and like I said, it's ironic that it's happening now, especially with the draft next week. Because just imagine if R-Truth gets drafted back to SmackDown. I don't know who that is. I'm gonna set that ring. Hopefully they'll leave a message. It's always ironic. People always call when I'm doing videos. Oh, it's kind of crazy. But anyway, like I was saying, just imagine R-Truth getting drafted to SmackDown. Justin Gabriel's on SmackDown. What it looks like is they're trying to turn Justin face, because I think that's what they've been originally wanting to do, turn Justin face. So maybe that'll balance it out. Or what if Justin gets drafted to Raw, next week, along with Heath Slater, and Justin eventually turns face there, and R-Truth is still on Raw. You get what I'm saying? It's a balancing out. And let's not forget, they're also talking about turning The Miz face. Well, here's, I think, the first step to doing it. Turn R-Truth face, and if you don't, do a face turn with Gabriel right then and there, and Slater and all that, then your next choice is The Miz. I mean, if R-Truth, who was one of the most over and most popular guys, is turning heel, then you got to take one of the most popular and over heels and turn them face. And right now, that's The Miz. I mean, people are already cheering him at times, so why not do it? Now, but again, we'll just have to see what goes from here. I mean, last night he still played up his heel persona, felt that it was unfair, and this is Miz I'm talking about, felt that it was unfair that he had to go in a triple threat match inside a steel cage at Extreme Rules, originally first against Cena and R-Truth, and now has to switch up his plans because now he's got to face Cena and Morrison. Well, this is the last. I want you to enjoy. To me, I want you to enjoy these last bits of Miz doing these kind of things, because with R-Truth turning heel, eventually Miz is going to turn face. And like I say, enjoy these last moments, these last great moments of Miz being a heel, because what's going to happen is next week during the draft, I will not be surprised if R-Truth gets put into the mix again, but this time in making it a fatal 4-way steel cage. I wouldn't be surprised by that. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, why would you put R2 as a code #1 contender, then have him lose it a week later to John Morrison? Why would you do that? You know, unless, you know, Morrison finally apologized for his actions and all that backstage, but still, why would you do that? It only makes sense. I think they're going to have a fatal 4-way inside the steel cage. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But again, I think it just will make sense to go in that direction. Now, like I said, you know, with R2 turning heel, you got to make somebody face, and either it's going to be somebody that's coming over from SmackDown, or it's going to be The Miz. And if Miz is eventually going to be a babyface, then here's the first seed planted. Now, speaking of next week, the draft, like I talked about, I still stick by my draft picks. In fact, I'll put the link to my video for my draft picks, who I feel is going to go where, right in the link in the description box. But I feel that's who I think is going to, that's who I feel and believe is going to go to certain areas next week during the draft, to certain brands. Now I know some people don't like the draft now. They feel it's unnecessary. They feel like it doesn't have no meaning, because you always have a superstar here, you always have a SmackDown star on Raw and a Raw star on SmackDown. Well, let me explain this. Yeah, there's always going to be that so-called talent exchange back and forth between both shows. But if you notice, a majority of everything after the draft and after Extreme Rules is always just for that brand only. Those stars stay on that brand only. They don't show up on any other show until later on down the line. If one does show up, again, it's always on occasions. It's always either by storyline invitation or storyline talent exchange. That's why, you know, that's why it happens that way. Now, you know, as far as the draft again goes, I have no problem with it. Again, I know some people have a problem with it, but again, I don't have a problem with it, and I stick by who I feel is going to go where next week. Now, the other item I want to talk about when it comes to WWE, and I briefly mentioned this last night, is I asked the question, who is Kurahama? And this is no joke. It's not Kama, because they've already gone in that direction. This is Kurahama. K-H-A or K-H-R-A-M-A, or something like that. That's the name. You can see it down below. And that is the name, believe it or not, that apparently WWE, according to PWInsider.com, that WWE is going to use for Awesome Kong. That's going to be Awesome Kong's WWE name. I've already had a few people respond to it, but, you know, this is WWE. Honestly, they may not look at TNA as major competition, and, you know, they may get angry when some people go on their shows and say, hey, I'm Mr., you know, and do a little rap and say they're Mr. Total Non-Stop Action or something like that. Well, I'm Mr. TNA, Total Non-Stop Action, whatever Cabal low-key said that day. And Michael Cole acknowledging, oh yeah, that's going to help him out, that's going to get him over. You see, WWE may not acknowledge them as much, may not acknowledge their existence as much, but they do know who they are, and they do know that when you have a major league player coming out of that promotion, people are going to know who that person is right off the bat. So that is why they're going to give her a different name change, so they can, as some people put it, shower and clean off all the stench that TNA left on them. Same thing they did with Daniel Bryan. When Daniel Bryan, or should I say by his real name, Bryan Danielson, when he came in, they gave him Daniel Bryan. in a way acknowledge who he really is, but acknowledge who he really is, and they even let him mention his real name on a few occasions. They really actually allowed him to mention his name on a few occasions, and some of the other people, announcers and wrestlers, did the same thing. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, folks. They gave him the Daniel Bryan name not only to kind of give an acknowledgement to his original name, but to kind of wipe away the the smell and the stench that I guess you could say Ring of Honor put on him. Not saying that Ring of Honor didn't do a bad job, but they did a great job with him. They gave him opportunities you wouldn't believe. But again, the same thing with Awesome Kong. The reason they're giving her this name is because they want to wipe away any existence of TNA. Yeah, a lot of fans, when she comes out to that ring, probably next week or probably on May 2nd, people are going to know who the hell she is right off the bat. They're going to know who it is. You know, I mean, you're going to hear people going, Awesome Kong, Awesome Kong. You're going to hear them say that, and yet WWE's going to try to get it over by saying she's not Awesome Kong now. She's Kurahama. Kurahama. Get used to it. So, but that's just a few things I want to talk about as far as WWE goes, and we'll just have to see what happens next week during the draft. Again, my link to my predictions and projections for the draft are right down below. Who I believe is going to go where, and that's all I'm going to say about it. Tell me what you guys think about some of the things I mentioned here, and I'll talk to you later. Oh, and one more thing. Speaking of the R-Truth deal, before I go, I wouldn't be surprised if WWE decides to go in a direction of having R-Truth talk to people like John Cena and Miz and say that WWE is just using them as puppets on a string instead of letting them be their real selves. So, but that's all I'm going to say. Comment down below. The link to my projections and predictions to the draft for next week's draft is down there as well. Tell me what you guys think. Tell me what you think about Awesome Kong's new WWE name, and I'll talk to you later.